Hey guys, today we're doing a little update on the Sulawesi shrimps, and at a first glance, it looks pretty horrifying, I know, but do not worry, this setup is just temporary. Before we start, if you did not watch the initial video on these guys, and if you don't know the sheer drama that happened about a month ago, then I'll link you to the initial video down below. I'll sum it up really fast. I had 1 week at my disposal to put together a setup that would keep them alive, because here where I live in this very tiny country, things are not always available. Actually, they're rarely available. So this was a very unique opportunity for me to acquire these shrimps, and I really didn't have enough time to do things properly. But what I wanted was to make a temporary setup that would keep them alive, and I'm happy to say that's exactly what the setup did, because these shrimps, not only are they still around and looking nice, they're also breeding. Yes, we're gonna have baby shrimplets very soon. And yes, I'm already working on a brand new setup for them, which I will do a lot better, a lot more to my liking. I will age it a little more than this one. So yeah, the future is bright. But let's just get to the shrimps. Now, the Sulawesi shrimps are very shy, so I can never count the total amount that I bought. I'm not sure exactly how many I have, but the most that I counted was over 10 at one time. So I guess that's a success. And even though I did not find any more casualties from the beginning, I cannot really say that I have the total amount that I bought. I have enough though to start a colony, and that's what I am interested in. And the colony seems to be pretty stable. Those rabbit snails are very clumsy. They're cute, but I have some grief with them. We'll get to that. The shrimps, though, they became a lot less shy over this month. Their coloration improved, and to address a little bit the coloration, when I saw them first, some of them were blue, like ink blue. And that was because of the temperature shock, I assume, but not only, there was an ammonia shock there as well. None of them are blue anymore. And to address another comment that I got, yes, there is some variation in their color. Some of them are darker red with blue spots. Some are lighter red with more white spots. That is a normal variation of color that I do see a lot on the internet as well. When I say they're blue when they're stressed, I mean blue, like really blue, not blue spots. Blue spots are nice. Blue body, that's not good. Dark red and red body, that is okay. Oh, look at that, look at that. Don't be so aggressive, ma'am. Oh my goodness. Currently, I have at least 3 buried females, and that means females with eggs. I'm not sure why in English they're called buried. 3 to 4 females have eggs, and that is fantastic. I've seen them for the past week or so, so there's still a bit to go before I see the babies, but that is great news. It means the colony will increase. All day long, what they do is graze on the algae. That's why I have a lot of algae on the stones. Some I don't want, but the green dusty thing that you see on the stones, that is good. That is actually their food. I'm really hoping the babies will not be as shy, and to debunk a bit of a myth, on the internet and with other growers, you will see that they suggest you add Caridina shrimps, aka red cherry shrimps, or other colors to them, because that will make them a little bit less shy, a little bit more prone to eating processed commercial food. Did not happen for me. They could not care less about the cherry shrimps. I could put a ton of food here and all of the shrimps will be on it. The Sulawesi shrimps will not be bothered. They will be on their rocks grazing on their algae. The only thing that they are actually enthusiastic about is shrimp lollies. Let me show you what I mean. These guys, and they actually look like lollies. They have some goodies attached to a bamboo skewer. You stick it into the tank, and I did see the Sulawesis munching on this as well. They really like it. Other than that, they're not really excited about anything. They're up to their devices on the rocks. I know, somebody is out. Whenever I'm around, Safi comes out because she thinks I'm gonna drop some food. I already fed you a lot. You're gonna overeat. I'm not gonna give you food now, Safi. I'm sorry. She's such a joy. I really love her. But back to the Sulawesis. Speaking about food, my main source of food besides the algae that naturally grow is this. This is Bacter AE. There, we focused. From Glass Garden. This is a biofilm producer. Let's say it's a powder that you add and it produces biofilm. I personally don't visually see the biofilm, but the Sulawesi's seem to be okay. So this might work. This is what I've been feeding them. And I've also tried some dennerli Shrimp King stuff because I have a lot of them. This stuff, they're not really enthusiastic about it. The Caridina's absolutely love this stuff. Sometimes one Sulawesi takes a bite, but then kind of gets bored of it and goes back to the algae grazing. So yeah, mine don't really eat much of anything else other than algae and probably some of the biofilm on the rocks. Which is fine. If that's what they like, that's what they like. However, we have some errors in calculations here. Because I added so many Caridinas, well, there weren't very many, but there were many females that already had a saddle, meaning they were already preparing eggs. Things got out of hand when it comes to shrimplets. This tank is full of shrimplets, but they're all Caridinas. And the quantity of algae decreases by day. I don't seem to have nearly as many algae deposits as I used to have. Now, that might be due to the snails, we'll get to that, or due to the shrimplets. So in my future setup, I will ditch the Caridinas from their setup. I'm gonna do a totally different setup for the cherries, for the Caridinas. But for the Sulawesis, yeah, I'm gonna keep them alone because they don't really seem to mingle all that much or get along with the Caridinas or be inspired to go eat something by the Caridinas. No, it just doesn't work out. So better not mix them. By the way, they're different species, so they cannot reproduce, they cannot mix. And when it comes to snails, I'm highly tempted not to mix them with snails either, but I'm still debating on that. So when I set up this tank, I initially did not find any rabbit snails, so I just put the typical brown snail, the ram's horn snail. Oh boy, oh brother, do we actually see the level of infestation in this tank? Yes, I have a ton of baby snails, and yeah, visually it does not look good, but more than that, all of these snails feed on the biofilm that I add and on the algae that forms. And that is not good for my Sulawesi shrimps because, I don't know, maybe at some point they will starve. The snails reproduce at such a fast rate that it's hard to control them. And let's say that, yeah, I gather everything from the sides. There are still snails in the substrate, in the rocks, in the algae, the cladophora there. So it's impossible to get rid of them. Some of you might know. So lesson learned. But they did their job. In the initial phases, it's a good idea to have snails because they do maintain a good equilibrium in the tank. Now, when it comes to the rabbit snails, that's a different story. They do not reproduce all that fast. They produce one little bebe at a time, and I do have a baby here. The problem is, do you guys remember I had a lot of moss on these rocks and now they're bare? Yeah, the snails ate all the moss, all of it, nothing is left. They also tried to eat the cladophora that I put on the rocks. Some of you might know it as the marimo ball. I just unfurled a ball and stuck it on the rocks. But they don't like it as much. There aren't many things that eat cladophora. And the worst thing about it is that when it grows in your tank, it's not going to grow in that bowl shape. No, it's going to grow like that. You see those puffs there? That is cladophora, and that's the actual good spot in which it grows because the snails don't really climb those rocks. They only climb these rocks. So yeah, again, lesson learned. I will not use cladophora in any of my future setups pretty much ever again. I don't like it. It's an invasive algae. Not for me. So yeah, in the next setup, either I'm gonna devise something sneaky to deal with the rabbit snails, either I'm not gonna use the rabbit snails. I'm not gonna go into the whole debate about keeping plants with Sulawesi shrimps. Yes, I know about the pH fluctuations, but at the same time, the water that I use does not fluctuate. Again, if you didn't watch my initial video, what I use is tap water because naturally from the tap, I have a pH of over 8 and a TDS that is pretty high. GH is pretty high and KH is pretty high, so I'm not very prone to pH fluctuations. So I don't think the amount of CO2 that slow-growing plants would absorb would make the pH fluctuate all that much between night and day. It didn't fluctuate at all in this tank, and I do have some plants. I used to have a lot of moss. It was growing actually until the snails ate it. So yeah, I didn't see any bad effects of that. Plus, you can say the same thing about algae. Algae act exactly like plants. They absorb CO2 in the daytime and release oxygen, and the reverse in the nighttime. So you can say that algae fluctuates pH as well. Does it? I don't know. I tend to believe it does not. So I'm not really concerned about adding plants to a Sulawesi tank. It's not going to be a planted tank because they do not have and will not have active soil. It's not good for them because it lowers pH. So I'm gonna have probably some epiphytes, some anubias, some moss, some things that make my eyes sparkle with joy. A bare tank is not really necessarily to my liking, and since these shrimps are also shy, there's really nothing for me to look at. So I am still debating about the rabbit snails. We'll see what I come up with. But pretty much those are my only grievances and the things that I definitely will not do the same. Other than that, the water, again, it's tap water. I do water changes every 2 weeks or so, I would say, and I remove about 15%. I remove as much as to not go below the outflow and below the heater way too much, because then I put back the water very slowly. Since the water at the tap is very cold in comparison to what I have in the tank, I don't want to fluctuate the temperature. So I want to leave the equipment running while I do the water change. They don't really need much of a water change. I'm not doing 50% like I would in my planted tanks. And that worked out great for me. Sometimes I change it once a week, sometimes once every 2 weeks, depending how I have time. The parameters are very good in this tank because I do have a lot of biological filtration in the filter, and yeah, that is about it. Oh, about the temperature. I keep it at 28 degrees Celsius in this tank, and that seems to have done the trick. So that is about it on the shrimps. They're doing great. I don't have babies yet, but I do have pregnant females, so really cannot wait for the colony to expand a little bit more, and I'm looking forward to a new setup because in the shelf here where I have them, the tanks are all planted and nice, and this is an infestation of snails and cladophora and all. It looks horrifying, horrifying, but it did its job. It's a good environment for the shrimps. That's all I wanted. And I'm currently planning a shrimp shelf, not just a shrimp tank. No, a shelf with multiple tanks. You're gonna see it's really looking nice. Yeah, as I get to know them, I'll be sure to make some more tutorials and more informative videos on them because there isn't a lot of information on the internet, and the information that exists, I will be honest, puts me down as a very seasoned fish keeper. It puts me down. I can only think what it does to beginners. I don't think it's necessary. So hopefully I get things right and I'll make some easy tutorials for you guys that will help you keep these shrimps in your home. Alrighty, with that said, let's just end it here. Thank you so much for watching. I'll keep you posted on them and their new setup. And before I let you go, subscribe for more videos and for more updates. And I'll see you all next time. Bye.